Here we are again.
Huh?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the channel. Welcome to the delayed flight. We have the Icon A5, supposedly with an autopilot. In the previous tutorials I showed you how to install the autopilot of the Icon A5. Now the question is if this thing works or not. For instance, let us suppose that we want to set our heading, isn't it, to the current heading of the aeroplane. The most simple thing in the world. How can we do this one? I mean, do you see any knobs here? You see any knobs? I don't see any knobs. Actually, as we see the airplane right now, there is no proof that this airplane has an autopilot installed. And this is not the only problem. For instance, I spent quite some time in order to find the parking brake. So, the parking brake is here. It is not that visible, but the parking brake is here, okay, because the command doesn't work. I mean, CTRL-del doesn't work, okay. So, we have set our parking brakes, of course. So if we examine the plane more thoroughly, we see that there are no knobs, let's say. And actually, the only thing that we have is this angle of attack indicator here, isn't it? Because I was trying to find where is the vertical speed indicator, and it seems the plane does not have any. So this plane is not that simple as I was expecting it to be. If we have a look at the second saved camera, I have these two saved cameras, we also don't see any knobs here, for instance. There is nothing at all. Yeah. So I suppose we must go to the runway somehow, isn't it? Now there are also additional problems because after the installation of the autopilot, the plane changed totally. I mean, the speed of the plane was about, let's say, 50 knots, 60 knots, something like this. Well, now after the installation, the speed is double. The speed is double. I mean, it is about 120, 130. And also, there is no idle. The engines are not running on idle. If I release the parking brake now, actually, I cannot stop the plane unless I use my brakes. There is no other way. That is why we are still standing here. To comment how this plane turns. After the installation, the plane turns terribly. I mean, it is almost uncontrollable. So, since we will not stay here forever, I press the brakes. Okay. I go here and I release the parking brakes. The keyboard command CTRL-del doesn't work. Okay, so I released my brakes. You see? Now I keep pressing my brakes because, as I said, there is no idle. I leave the parking brakes, you see? Without throttle, without anything. I must continuously press the brakes. Here it is. Of course, I can turn easily. For instance, if I release the parking brakes, you see, this is not that realistic. But anyhow, we managed to free our plane. I suppose that when the engine is on idle, one engine of course, the plane must stop. But here, when the engine is on idle, the plane doesn't stop. Why? Because if you have a look here, rounds per minute, I keep pressing the brakes. You see, the engine is running with about 2000, exactly 2000 rounds per minute, isn't it? So what to say, this is something that I've never seen before. As soon as I release my parking brakes, you see, I cannot stop the plane. I mean, I cannot. Okay, let us go to the runway anyways. However, it is fun. It's like riding a motorcycle, isn't it? So let us see if the installation was successful, the installation of the autopilot, and if we can have this plane airborne with the autopilot features operational. Yeah, you press continuously the brakes, there is no other way. Of course, you have the other option to leave the plane exactly as it is without any autopilot. And in that case, everything will be okay. You will not have these issues, but you will not also have an autopilot. Here it is. I released my parking brakes. Okay, so now I keep pressing the brakes. Okay, I keep pressing the brakes, I don't leave the brakes, I go here, there is no other way, and I set my parking brakes on again. Okay, I suppose now it is stable, isn't it? So I think there is no reason to examine the plane any further, though it looks so simple. As we see, there are no knobs. No knobs for the heading, for the vertical speed, for the altitude. Actually, there is nothing. Which means that the question remains how, for instance, we set now our heading to the heading of the runway, isn't it? The heading is here. You see this light blue color here. This is the indicator of the heading. Actually, the current heading of the autopilot, but the question is how do we change this? Of course, for you who followed the previous tutorials, there is a way. We didn't find the features of the autopilot yet, but still there is a way. I mean the command to change the heading. We said lots of times that it is CTRL plus insert or CTRL plus del, delete on the numpad. So, for instance, have a look here, please. You must set these commands first of all to the keyboard commands. You must go to the settings and so on. There are tutorials about these things. So, CTRL plus insert. You see? Here it is. Very slowly, otherwise you may have a crash. And so on and so on. Okay, I will not continue. This is actually the Garmin, the G3X, which is another version of the Garmin. It is quite interesting, and we will see only the basics, of course. We just want to get airborne. Here, for instance, as you see, you minimize the map, and here you maximize the map. Okay. So now, in order to bring the autopilot features, you press here. I think you can as well press wherever you like. But if you press here, you see, this is the way you change the modes here. So about the question, I suppose we have these two knobs here, heading up. Exactly, you see, here now it is changing. And heading down. Okay. Of course, as I said, I can as well use the commands that I showed you, which is CTRL plus insert and CTRL plus del. Anyhow, we managed to set the heading of the runway. Here it is, somewhere here. Exactly, 04. Now, in order to activate the heading mode, we didn't engage the autopilot yet, but in order to activate the heading mode, you just press here. Okay, you see this green line here. Or as well, which is the command we set, Alt plus H. Here it is. You see, the green line disappeared. Alt H, the green line appeared again, and I will have the heading mode in standby mode. I will leave it exactly as it is. So I have the heading of the runway. Now, how do you change the altitude? Because here, as we see, here we have an altitude of 10,000, which is quite a lot. The same way, we have these two knobs here, Alt up and Alt down. Have a look here. The light blue numbers, 10,000 feet. Altitude up, altitude down. You see the cursor. Altitude up, I increase the altitude, and altitude down, I decrease the altitude. The desired altitude, isn't it? Of course, this is not very handy, isn't it? And of course, as well, I can use the commands, which is for me much more easy. And the command is CTRL plus page down or page up. Let us set an altitude of 3,000 feet. So here it is, CTRL page down, whichever way you prefer, okay? Okay. Altitude set to 3,000. Here it is, altitude up and altitude down. So standby altitude is at 3,000 feet, okay? Now, if I want to engage the altitude, isn't it, I press here. You see? You see the green line here. Or I can as well press Alt plus A. Here it is. The line disappeared now, the green line. Now, which is most important for me, the vertical speed is here. This is the button. Again, we press here. We see the vertical speed is activated. And I suppose it is nose up and down or not? Yeah, it is. You see, nose up and nose down. This means vertical speed up or down. Actually, isn't it? Nose up. Which is actually the rate of ascent or descent, isn't it? But I prefer to use again the keyboard command, which in our case is CTRL plus home. So let us set a vertical speed, a rate of ascent of, let's say, okay, 800 feet. Okay, here it is. 7, 6, 7, 8. So once again, camera number 1 is this one, and all 2, we have here all these functions, and I don't have any flight plan. I mean, I will not press here nav, lateral navigation mode, and I will engage the autopilot as soon as we are airborne. In order to conclude, you change the rate of ascent or descent with these two buttons here, nose up and nose down. 8, 9, 1,000 feet per minute, and again 800 feet per minute rate of ascent. You change the altitude here, the blue numbers, 3.1, 3,100 feet, 32, 31, 30. And you change your heading here. I will not press it again, okay. And if you prefer, you can use the keyboard commands. There are tutorials about the keyboard commands, how you adjust them on your controls. You go to your settings, isn't it? You go here, control options. And for instance, if we type Alt H, we see the command. You go here and you change. Okay, I will not repeat the same things. If you're interested, please let me know, though there are tutorials about these things. Okay. The flaps of the plane are somewhere here. Okay. If you change the flaps, you press this lever here. But the truth is, as I used to say, that I prefer, again, the commands, which are, at this case, F7, isn't it? Yeah, F7, F7, F6 to reduce, and once again F6. Our flaps are retracted. I think all we have to do is to practice these things, and this will be all for now. I also set the drone camera. If you see this little fly here, this is our plane. This is our Icon A5. I also set the vertical speed standby. Here this 800 feet per minute, if you see. But still the autopilot is not engaged. So I suppose I cannot avoid it, and whatever will be, and we must leave. I mean, what to say? We cannot stand here on the runway forever. Which means that I keep pressing my brakes. I press my brakes right now. Since the command CTRL-Del doesn't work, I release the parking brakes. You see. I also set my flaps. So, whatever will be, will be. Let us leave from here. The plane has gear, isn't it? Yes, it has. So gear is up. All 2. Autopilot engaged. Okay. Let us have a look at our speed, because we may stall as well. Though the plane now, after the installation of the Autopilot and the G3X Garmin, is much more powerful. And we are expecting to stabilize at 3,000 feet, isn't it? Okay. We just monitor our instruments. Actually, we cannot even see the rate of ascent. I mean the vertical speed indicator. We just have a look here. We see the speed, 800 feet per minute, rate of ascent. Our speed is about 90 knots. I'm very curious, the moment of truth. If we stabilize at 3,000, it will be good news, definitely. Come on. "3,000 feet" is blinking. You see the rate of ascent is reduced, and it goes close to 0. Exactly. Here it is, 3,000 feet. Straight and level flight. Good, very good. Now, if we want to change the altitude, for instance here, I can do this both ways. So if I want to change the altitude, I go here, Alt up, let's say, you see, 3.5 thousand, 3,500 feet. Again, Alt V. I set a rate of ascent, let's say now, here it is, of 500 3,500 feet per minute, and I'm waiting to stabilize at our new altitude, which is 3,500 feet per minute. So yes, indeed, the autopilot works, and this of course gives you the freedom to examine also the environment. I have arranged my cameras. Very beautiful scenery. We are in the Philippines, by the way. I mean, in Vilnius it was too depressive lately. It was too depressive there. So we came once again to the Philippines. St. Vincent is the airport. Let me have a look. Yeah. Let us see now if we will stabilize at 3,500 feet. Our speed is more or less about 100 knots. The rate of ascent. Excellent. Excellent. Okay, we stabilize at 3,500 feet exactly. And also have a look here at the RPM indicator, this rounds per minute. Ideal rounds per minute for this aircraft is about 4,000 rounds per minute, but the truth is that, okay, we can as well increase the throttle more. So, the airport I suppose is behind us. Yes, it is. Excellent. These are my saved cameras. I think I showed you my saved cameras once again. Wonderful scenery and wonderful weather, much more better than the weather in Vilnius, where we landed last time, isn't it? This is the last camera that I changed. If you are interested how to go outside of this plane, please let me know. And another idea was this one. I didn't retract my flaps. I didn't retract my flaps seams. Okay. So now, how do we turn? Heading is engaged. We see here this green line, isn't it? And once again, there are two ways. The one is, as I always used to say, with the keyboard commands, with CTRL plus insert or del. But I will use the knobs here. So 180 degrees turn. I reduce, as you see, my throttle because I want to turn easier. The lower your speed, the easier you turn, isn't it? So let us give it a try. Don't exceed 180 degrees turn, otherwise you will turn from the other direction. This is, let me think, yeah, it is heading up. Yeah, we see the plane turning already. I suppose here I will not have a crash. I think this is too much, isn't it? If the runway was 40, anyhow, let it be, the turn should be at 220 degrees, isn't it? Excellent. Excellent. Hands-free, we are on autopilot. So the heading of the runway is 220 from the other side, isn't it? In that case, 40 και 180, 220. Yes, it is 220, it is. Exactly, here it is. Have a look at this light blue numbers here. Cyan is this color, how it is called. Okay, so more or less we return to our airport, and somewhere here we must see our runway. Let us descend quickly. I showed you how. I reduced the altitude. Let's say, okay. Now I use the keyboard commands. I will reduce my altitude to, okay, 1000 feet. 1000 feet. Alt V. I set the rate of descent something steeper this time, about 1000. Excellent. So we descend to 1000 feet. Shall we land and to finish this clip? Because I wanted to, there is a wonderful scenery here, and I wanted to show you this scenery once again. I think I showed you this scenery in one of the last tutorials. Shall we go to land? In that case, maybe I can as well descend to, I will make it even steeper. Yeah, this is too much, 1.5 thousand feet. Maybe to go to land. I think I showed you the basics. Or to continue, I really don't know what to do. Let us land, let us drink a coffee, let us land, and we will see, maybe we will continue later. The runway is right in front of us. Okay, we see here, we set the altitude at 1000 feet and we are descending actually quite rapidly. Of course there are trees in front of us, and this I don't like much, but we are already lined up with the runway. So now I'm expecting that we will stabilize at exactly 1000 feet, isn't it? I hope we will not crash. Exactly 1000 feet is blinking here. Okay, we stabilized at 1000 feet. I can as well now go to 700 feet, Alt V. We said that the plane has gear, isn't it? Yes, it does. I mean, it is obvious. Okay. Now I use, for instance, the keyboard commands. And we are expecting to stabilize at how much? 700 feet, isn't it? Yeah, it is. Okay, excellent. Flaps, F7. I correct my heading with the knobs, CTRL plus del, 220, isn't it? Excellent. Okay, and soon we will disengage the autopilot. Okay, so always check that your gear is down. Always check with the external camera that your gear is down. Love your planes, and if they don't work properly, try to find solutions. It is a wonderful plane, the A5. And we haven't landed on the sea yet, isn't it? I will not record my landing, I think. Very easy, you can land with this plane. And by the way, don't forget that you don't flare with this plane. Try not to flare with this plane. It is exactly as the J3 Piper Cup. You don't flare, like the tail draggers, I mean, okay? So, 66. Okay, more flaps. More flaps. And I reduce my flaps again. Okay. Keep an eye on your vertical speed. Okay. And now press the brakes continuously, otherwise the plane will not stop. We landed, isn't it? So you see, everything is okay. Maybe not to go, I mean, until the end of the runway, and just to turn somewhere here and to allegedly park. Okay, you see how easily? There is a spirit of a motorcycle inside this plane. I also retracted my flaps. Now the plane will never stop. I mean, I must continuously press the brakes. And needless to say that I suppose you understand already that the same problem also we have when we land on the water. The plane cannot stop there. Can I have any guidance? Select the runway, no. Okay.
Romeo Papa Sierra Victor, traffic icon Alpha 5 Heavy is clear of the runway.
So I can park wherever I want, and I suppose that I will park somewhere close to the Lufthansa Airbus. And the good alles good. Continuously press the brakes. Continuously. No, stop. Okay. So now I keep pressing the brakes, isn't it? There is no other way. I cannot release the brakes. Here are the parking brakes. Okay. We are good. Yes, we are good. Excellent. Excellent weather. Much more better than the weather in Vilnius right now. Ladies and gentlemen, I think maybe this will be all for now. I suppose we have also another task to try to land this plane on the water, isn't it? This is our airport, Romeo Papa Sierra Victor, St. Vincent, San Vicente, excellent, San Vicente, here we are. A bespoke airport, of course. A wonderful airport and a wonderful scenery somewhere here nearby. Ladies and gentlemen, I think this is all for now. I will not insist any further. Thank you for watching this clip and hope to see you soon to the next one. Till then, you take care and bye for now.